Gotta get more followers.
Hello everyone, today's video I recorded a trade. It's one of my trade setups from my website. Just saw the perfect setup and thought, you know what, I need to record. It's been way too long since I did some trading videos. I've been basically traveling, avoiding winter in Canada, so I realized the trading videos have been pretty sparse the last few months, but I'll be back home in about a week actually. Even though it's still technically wintry out, things are improving. So I'm headed home finally to Montreal, and I will be making all kinds of content and trading videos. But to get you over the hump, if you're a fan of those trading videos, I saw a classic Catchup today. I was actually in the trade and said, you know what, I got to record. Why am I not recording this? So I started recording mid-trade, but I'm going to walk you through the trade. I kind of like this better than explaining it in the moment sometimes because I can walk you through the steps of what I'm looking at and can kind of pause the video. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Be sure to subscribe. I trade primarily the UltraBond and the futures market. I trade using depth of market. Software I use is Jigsaw Day Trader. I've done tons of videos about Jigsaw, but to give you an idea of what you're looking at, on the right-hand side is the UltraBond. This would be called the depth of market or the price ladder, the order book, whatever you want to call it. On the left side, I have the 10 years, which I use to help make trades in the UltraBond. And actually, that very thing happens in this trade. So I'll walk you through what I look for. And the middle two are just the ticker tapes for the 10 year, which quite honestly, I don't use as much. But I do like to keep them up. You'll find no charts here. I'm not a chart trader. I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on the charts and their indicators and everything else. Using the order book, we get to see the ground level, what the actual buyers and sellers are doing, and that's how I like to trade. So let's get to this. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my website, CanadianFuturesTrader.ca, if you're interested in futures trading, learning futures trading, all about funded futures trading companies. They've been a big part of my success. If you happen to be watching this video the very day that I put it out, Apex Trader Funding is running a sale currently. That will go until the end of day March 7th, 2023, 80% off, lifetime discount. You can get funded to trade futures. If you're seeing this after the fact, all the more reason to visit my website because I always keep it updated with the latest and greatest trader evaluation deals and promos. I myself am approaching 2 million in funded accounts, which I'm pretty proud of. I'm definitely gonna pass that this year. I kind of took a break from getting any more accounts. I've got plenty to manage, but the other side of me definitely wants to cross that 2 million mark, so I'll be doing that. I also have a free futures course. I've opened up page 4 here, so you can go through the entire course, but page 4 is all my setups, and one of those setups is the one we're going to be talking about today. I made this course over a year ago. I made it December 2021. So here we are, a full year and 4 months later, and the same setups still apply to this day. I still use the same trade setups. They work, and they work for a reason. So if you want to learn more about the technicals and digging in anything, if you watch today's video and you still don't quite understand it, or you want more examples, come to my site, go to the course, go to page 4. The very first one is the Catchup. I've got a few videos from back then explaining it, and then as well some other trade setups that I often use. So let's get to this actual trade from today. I don't have the date and time up here, but I do later on in the video. It's a short video. It's 5 minutes. We'll just start watching it. In a second here, let me walk you through what is happening first. So with the video paused, immediately I can tell you a few things. So the 10 years here are at the low of what the range is they've traded today. So they have traded in this range here. Using Jigsaw, the price points where it's white means there's been contracts traded. You can also see that because of this column, which is the volume traded at each price level. So you'll see each price level has some volume. So they're right at the low of where they've traded. I went short at the price of 2.7. You can tell it's short because it's red, and you can tell what price because it's in red. And as well, you'll see the profit and loss, potential profit and loss for each price level. I'm only short 2 contracts, so this is just a nice little trade. Saw it, I was like, oh, let me jump in here. I was actually doing something else, so it wasn't hardcore trading by any means. So I went short up here. So at the point I went short, which was just like maybe a minute before I started recording, the price was still down here, transacting down in this range. So 10 years were at their low. UltraBond was up here, like a full 8 ticks, if not 9, off of their low. Pure classic setup. A few other things I was looking for, or that I saw, I should say, before just jumping in. Besides being at the low on the 10 years, you're seeing the buyers starting to pull their orders. They're starting to thin out. You're seeing the sellers pile on. So there's just increased pressure to continue lower. So it's not even just that they're at the low. I'm fully expecting this to push further even lower. And then on the UltraBond side, there's usually this catch-up phenomenon where the treasuries tend to trade in tandem. They get out of whack sometimes. I mean, some people say they never see this trade set up. I don't know how. It happens each and every single day. You just got to pay attention. Maybe they're a little bit hesitant and it catches up before, I don't know. But anyways, pure classic setup. 10 years are at their low. UltraBonds is like 9. Let's see here. So they didn't actually trade at this price. It touched it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I entered 8 ticks above the low. And sure enough, within just a minute, it's already 3 ticks down. And we're going to see through this trade, it does exactly that. The 10 years just kind of hang out around here. They stay at their lows, and the UltraBonds work their way down. So I will admit, my exit, I wish was a little bit better on this trade. I kind of knew the train ride was over, but I hesitated. I was like, what if? And sure enough, the train ride was over. So I could have got an extra tick or two. It starts to come back on me. But we'll see that later in the video. Still a profitable trade nonetheless. So let me let this play. It's not all that exciting in some parts because it's just kind of hanging out. So at this point, it's playing, but there's obviously nothing happening. Kind of happens in spurts. I don't have any take profit or stop loss. At some point, I put a stop loss on this, but for now, I'm just letting it go. Like I said, things aren't moving dramatically. It's not like I'm expecting this to just rip right against me 10 ticks by any means. So you're seeing over here, I'll just pause this again. So at this point, you're sitting in this trade, you're watching it, you're like, okay, I'm at, 187 in profit, 3 ticks. 3 ticks, not bad for UltraBond. Usually I go for just some scalping, 2, 3, 4 ticks. So be fully okay to just take profit and run at this point. But doesn't really go in line with the story that we're expecting this to fully catch up, and I wanted this to play out. Still seeing, I have this paused, still seeing contracts being added. You're seeing some people pulling here. It's just kind of been hanging out though. We saw it there, the 30 seconds I let it play. Now over here, so I'm kind of watching both of these simultaneously to see what's happening. Now over here, I'm going to pause this for a sec again. Seeing some negatives. That means, so again, if you're not familiar with my Jigsaw setup, I know this might be like confusing and whatnot. I explain it a lot of other videos, so I don't want to like burden people with explaining every single column every single time. But the inner green and the inner purple are basically the limit orders that are sitting out there in the market right now. If you just saw like a simple depth of market, these would be the columns you'd see, the price, and you would see what this is and this is. These are limit orders. The outside green, outside purple are the contracts being added and subtracted to this number. So it could be one of two things. One, it might go down because contracts were traded there, and that's what these two inside columns represent. So this will go down when contracts trade or when people cancel their orders. So, and likewise, the number will go positive when people add on additional contracts, add limit orders there. So when you're seeing a lot of negatives on one side and positives on the other, that means these people are either pulling orders or they're getting filled, and these people are adding on orders. So there's just a downward pressure in this situation. Now, granted, it's not dramatic. It's not insane. That's in part why I like to watch the 10 years as well, because the volume is much higher. The number of contracts is much bigger. So you see bigger numbers. It just kind of stands out a little bit more. Let's let this continue to play. But just to give you an idea of what I'm looking for, I'm going to pause it again real quick. I know I'm pausing a lot here. We saw 554 contracts trade here. That means those were sellers who took up the buyers, and they're doing it right at the low. So when you see a lot of sellers hitting, again, downward pressure, you're seeing it here too, downward pressure, and now we're 4 ticks to the good over here. So let's let this continue to play. Now, these guys are just kind of hanging out. These guys, kind of hanging out, but we're definitely, we're on the right side of this trade regardless. It's going to be a profitable trade. It's just a matter of how much at this point. But again, if I was to, and there I moved up the date and time. So if you want to go back and see the date and time, it was at 9:21 Eastern time on today, March 6th. So at this point, I'm just going to pause it. These guys are just kind of hanging out. I'm also seeing the inverse of what I like to see. Now we're starting to see some buyers pile on, starting to see some negative here. So I do recall at this point, I was kind of like, is it time to just get out? For all the good intentions and everything, not every trade setup is going to play out 100% perfect. Like right now, we're in a profitable trade, but there's a point where you have to not be stubborn as well. You can't just assume that just because the catch-up works a lot of the time, it's going to work every time. So I think some of the finesse is knowing when to call it quits sometimes on a trade as well. And actually, I mean, I already mentioned it once, but at the very end of this trade, I actually really don't I would say I gave up definitely one, if not two ticks on this trade that I could have had if I wasn't as, I don't know if stubborn's the word, but I was just kind of waiting to see if we could get a push further. But we'll get to that when it happens. Even CFT, I like to think I'm pretty good at trading these ultra bonds, but I still always room to grow and to work on. Now, I'm going to pause it again. I realize, guys, I'm pausing this a lot, but I think this works well because I'm able to explain stuff without it just flying by. You saw a huge amount of contracts here. They cleared this out, and now they're down here at this low. These guys are pulling. So I like what I'm seeing over here. So even though they're kind of hanging out, we got that nice little push. Speaking of the ticker tapes, you're seeing nothing but reds and purples. Sellers. Those are sellers. So these are filtered. Again, I don't want to get too bogged down in this, but the left one is filtered for trades of 25 contracts and above. This one is filtered for trades I think it's 125 or 150 contracts and above. And why I do that is I don't want this just populated with all the one lot, two lot traders. Like, they're not moving the markets. People moving big chunks of contracts are what move the markets. So when you see this, reds and purples, that's all selling. These guys are just pounding it. I mean, there was over 4,000 contracts traded. So, and again, why I'm focused so much on the 10 years, even though I'm trading the UltraBond, is because I fully expect these to move in tandem, and they eventually do. Now, going back to the original premise of this trade, it was the catch-up trade. Well, look what's happened. These guys still down at their low, and these guys have essentially caught up. They're trading almost at their low now. Remember, I entered up here. When I entered this trade, up here at the price of 2.7, these guys were at their low. I can't quite remember what the exact price was. It was down. I don't think they were at 120, but I want to say they were maybe at 130. So they've pushed a little bit further, but these guys have caught up effectively. So I would say this is a successful trade in that the premise works. The catch-up works. So let's continue to play. There's actually a decent amount of time left on this trade and see what happens. And again, I'll just pause it when... so I put on a stop loss here. I kind of realized it's like, I didn't really put a stop loss on here. And I'm just moving it down there. So again, it was just a two-lot trade. Nothing exciting, but hey, any day you can just kind of take a look at your trading platform and go, oh, hey, here's a great setup. I'm going to take it. Oh, look, it worked. And I made a few $100s, not a bad day. So these guys are at their low, and I'm kind of feeling it out. So I'm going to pause it actually really quick while I run through my thoughts here. So they're at their low. They're at the same low they were 30 seconds ago or whatever it was. I've got my stop on here, so I'm like, okay, I've definitely locked in X amount of profit, and I continue to move this. I think I'm getting ready to move it down even further. I like to follow with a stop, but I don't like to get too close because I want to give this some wiggle room. They might move, 1-2 ticks against me and then charge down again. That's one reason I'm a big proponent of specializing in like one, maybe two products. So many people just spray the board. They trade, every product under the sun. They're just chasing money. They're spinning their wheels, and they're basically an expert at nothing. And I personally don't think that's the way to properly trade. If you just mainly trade, like I'm primarily trade the UltraBond, occasionally dabble in some crude oil, and that's basically it. You get a real sense of how the market operates and, its mood for the day. Is it frantic or is it pretty tame? Or, is it nice and trending or is it bouncing around? You really get a sense and appreciation for the market. I've been trading the UltraBond now for several years. I honestly would have to look back as to when I officially kind of switched to the UltraBond. And nothing but, I would say it's maybe even 3 years at this point. But nonetheless, the point being is when you pick up on those nuances, I know that I'm pretty safe putting, a stop loss, but having it trail by, 2-3 ticks. If it comes against me, you know what, so be it. I'm fine. I'll take my profits. And that's just how this trade played out. But you're also able to manage it a little bit better. Like if I put my stop loss like right here at 22, I wouldn't be surprised if it popped up, hit it, and then charged back down. So I'm trying to follow, but stay a little bit clear if that makes sense. So let's keep watching here and see how this plays out. So right now I did move it down. So I'm kind of, in quotes, guaranteed a $250 winner, which isn't, that's a nice little Nice little trade for 2 lots. Another reason I like the UltraBond is it trades, each tick is $31.25 per contract, so $62.50 for 2 contracts. You don't need a lot of contracts. I'm going to pause this real quick to make a lot of money. You're not having to chase it. It's like the opposite of NQ where people chase it around all day, or micros, which are horrible. You know, if you can finesse this and grab, you know, the nice few tick moves, there's a lot of profit to be had. So I have it paused here. We are at the low. So like Catchup, like 100% played out here. Like we caught up. These guys were at their low. These guys were trading up here. They've caught up. Like that mission is accomplished. So at this point, I'm kind of switching, and it's actually my next trade setup past the Catchup is break lows and break highs. It's another reason why I really like the Catchup, because a lot of times it kind of parlays itself into a break low or a break high. So the Catchup is accomplished, and now we might get a situation where we break the low here as well. So you can play the Catchup kind of in the middle of the range, but I typically wait for these types of situations when 10 years are at a high or a low, UltraBond is nowhere near it, look for it to catch up, and then now, okay, let's see if we can break low. And they're pushing this low. Again, nothing is 100%, but a lot of times, I'll say a lot of times, or majority, when it does break, it tends to break with a bit of fury. Like it's not just going to break a few ticks and then move back. Like it's going to break, and it's going to break 1, 2, 3 ticks and then maybe pull back. And sure, like I said, nothing is 100%. Maybe it flies down 10 ticks, or maybe it just doesn't break and it moves back up. And that's kind of what happens here. It doesn't play out for us. So I want to show you that. But that's what I've kind of moved into. I'm like, okay, we've done the catch up. Now can we get a break low here? So what I did, I'm going to pause this. So we're breaking the lows here. It looks like they just cleared out on the 10 years here on the left. So they're getting ready to break their low. These guys getting ready to break their low. So I do exactly what I just kind of described. I set a take profit about 2 ticks below where it touched on. Nothing traded here yet, but it is about to, or in theory is about to. So I set a take profit here just because I was like, you know what, if this pops low and grabs this, great. If it keeps on charging, so be it, and then we can move into a new trade if we have to. But honestly, sometimes it's a feel thing. Again, when you specialize in one product, you tend to get the feel for the market. I really didn't get the sense that this was going to rip and just keep ripping. Like, I would appreciate it if it came down and hit my take profit. But I felt like that was the best I could do. And honestly, you'll see after the trade, I continued to record for a little bit, and then I just stopped the recording. But I went back and looked after the fact, and it did not rip. It did just kind of come back up. And not to spoil the surprise, but we never actually hit this take profit. I end up just managing the stop loss. So let's continue to watch. Thanks for hanging in there. I know this, for a 5-minute video, this will end up being like a 20 or 30-minute actual explanation, but I think this is valuable for people. This is what people seem to like most, is like walking through trades and learning. So I won't pause it, but right now, so we've got our guaranteed $250. We got our take profit. So right now, we're at the low again. I moved the stop 1 more tick, so we're guaranteed at least that much. I didn't quite see what the exact amount was, 312. And I'm trying to stay at least 2 ticks behind, give it some room. You see it pop back and forth, especially when you're at the low. I'm going to pause it real quick. When you're at the low, there's always that little battle between, the shorts and the longs. The buyers don't want it going any lower, so they're going to try to fight and defend a little bit more than if it was just in a middle kind of random range. And then the sellers, of course, would love for it to go low, because when it goes low, a lot of times you trigger stop losses, and that's why you get that pop. You get buyers who go shoot. You either get the stop losses triggered, and or you just get buyers who are like, you know what, I'm out, and they kind of manually exit their trades because they've already seen this go low and now it's going lower, and they're just like, you know what, I'm out, the party's over. So that's why I was actually pretty hopeful at this point that we were going to hit this. I wouldn't say no problem, but we would actually get this charged down. So that's kind of what I'm doing while I'm managing the stop loss. So here, let's see, we have about 1:50 left. So I moved it down 1 more tick. I'm going to pause this. So right now, we're obviously flirting with this, and I'm starting to see stuff that I don't love. A little bit of buyer action here. this is pretty thin. All it takes is for these guys to disappear, and now guess what? My stop is getting hit. Now, I mean, not so bad. $375 winner, you know what? I'll take it. But it's really, this is what makes a lot of difference is, you know, because if we manage this, if I truly thought this was going to come back on me, why not just get out now, take this price, and make an extra $62? And that's where I feel like I wish I had managed this a bit better, because the clues are here that this might be done for now. Over here on the 10 years, you're not seeing a lot of negatives. I'm not seeing any story over here that tells me these guys are looking to push this further at this point. I mean, sure, they might in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, in an hour. I don't know, but I'm not looking to stay in a trade that long. So here, this is like, just looking at this now, I'm like, I really should have just like boop, been out and taken this profit. But I was kind of trading off. There's also this risk reward, right? It's like, well, I know I'm going to get 375, but I might get whatever this is, 680 something, if by chance we do get like a little flash pop down. So I'm holding on. Again, in retrospect, I kind of wish, like, the signs tell me though this is probably over, so I kind of wish I had taken this, but let's just let it play, see what I do here. And see immediately, yeah, it pops up. And right now I'm like, okay, I'm sitting duck. Like actually, I'm going to go back just a second. See if I can get this back. So I'm going to pause this at the right time. Okay, right here. I mean, if enough contracts trade here, and these guys, look at this, negative, 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 positive, positive. There's contracts being added on here. These guys are doing nothing over here. You're seeing some negatives here. Like, basically, I'm sitting duck at this point. And I mean, sitting duck isn't necessarily a horrible thing. Again, this is a profitable trade, but I could have got that one extra tick, and I knew that I probably, the odds were this was probably going to happen and not this was going to happen. So, but as luck would have it, I don't get filled because I want to show you one thing. Even though contracts were kind of being added and subtracted here, nothing traded. So right where I have my arrow, this would be if buyers came up and hit the sellers and contracts traded. But no contracts traded there. So the price moved up there, but no one's willing to do business there. So I got lucky in that sense. So now I have every opportunity to once again hit the flat button and try and get out at this next price level. But I don't. So I'm watching it. I'm kind of, now look at this. We're right back up here. These guys have pulled. Now, again, not one contract is traded here. These are just people purely pulling their contracts. So again, when I went back to explaining like the different columns and how things work, you learn this over time. And I realized if you're not familiar with Jigsaw, like this just looks like a foreign language. But since no contracts have traded right here, but you're seeing big negative here, that is purely people pulling their limit orders. Is what it is. But like I said, I'm sitting duck. I can't do anything, and there you go. I got filled on that one. So I'll just zip ahead. I did let it record for a few minutes later, so I got filled at 21, I believe was where I had it at some point here. Let's just pop down. Yeah, so I got filled at 21. I'm going to zip ahead just towards the end of when I stopped recording, and I'll just pause it. So it did, in fact, end up moving down a little bit further, 2019. So unfortunate. I basically got filled at like, out of the given situation, in quotes, the worst price, still profitable trade, so not too worried about it. But we could have picked up another tick or two. But to do that, we would have not had to have the stop there. We probably would have had to have it at 22, 23, and then we run the risk that the price did just continue up. So all in all, not horrible, but I think what it's not even disappointment, but how I could have managed that a little bit better was just the clues were there, like I pointed out, that this was going to not necessarily run right down. Now, here we are, like a minute later, whatever, I zipped ahead, and we are, and the clues are back. Look at these big negatives over here. Love that. Like, that's just fantastic. And here it's positive, so they're adding on. These guys are pulling. Fully would expect this to continue on down. Now, like I said, when I went back and looked, it actually, at least for I think it was like 10 minutes later, it really didn't. It kind of just did the same thing. It kind of bounced around, would go up a bit. So all things considered, at most, I would have gotten probably 2 more ticks out of this. Didn't. Still happy with the trade. To go back to kind of the original reason that I started recording, there you go. You got to see a nice catch-up. I'll just go back to the very beginning, just paused. 10 years at their lows. UltraBonds, like 8, when I counted up, 8 ticks off of their low at the point when I entered. And then this is a 5-minute video. And here we are. I just zipped ahead randomly 2 minutes later. Actually, let me go back. I'm really curious. So these guys did not move. They were trading at 12 here. 2 minutes later, they were at the same price. But the UltraBond had moved fully down. I mean, that's a catch-up through and through. if you were wondering and wanted to see one. And it happens relatively quick. I mean, again, this is 2 minutes later. And I like I said, I entered the trade probably about a minute before I started recording. So say a 3-minute trade, you fully get down here to a nice catch up. So, and then like I showed, so 2 minutes there. So if we jump ahead here, it was trading at 2021. Ultimately, even though it kind of bounced around, took me out, all of that, for 3 more minutes, you know, you would have got another tick. And it looks like it probably maybe ticked down here. It did, some contracts traded here. So you could get another tick or two for like an extra 3 minutes. But you would have had to ride that kind of motion in between. And I got taken out, but more than happy. So guys, hopefully that was useful. I actually kind of like this style better than just live recording and like explaining as it goes. I mean, I like that too, but I feel like this style where I record the trade and then go back and really explain it is more what people say they want. They want to understand specifics. They want the step by step by step. And sometimes in the trade, it's just moving too fast and you can't do the step by step by step. So I really hope that helps some people, if anything, with the Catchup. Like I said, if you happen to be new here or you just have no idea what you're looking at here, I search for Jigsaw under my channel. I have tons of tutorials. They're all a little bit older at this point, but it all holds true. I mean, nothing much has changed with Jigsaw in the last several years. So if you want to learn about the different columns, if you want to see my course and all the different setups I have, like I said, Catchup's like number 1 as break low and break high is number 2. And really, if I had like one master setup, it's the Catchup that runs right into a break low, break high. Like those are the most exciting days for sure. But you also have to realize that not every single day is going to give you like ample opportunities to do this. Sometimes things just range, and hey, my next trade setup is the range, when it does just kind of bounce back and forth in the same range. So be sure to check out my site. Everything is free. Course is 100% free. I am working on a second course, which is advanced order flow. So I will definitely go into even more of this and really just breaking things down, like even more so than I did in this trade, and really try to explain step by step, you know, what I'm looking for, and also not just use like good outcome trades, use some bad outcome trades and say, okay, here's why I entered, here's what I was seeing, okay, this, that, and the other thing changed on me, so we're getting out. You know, a big part of being successful at trading is managing that risk and knowing when to ditch, when to get out. You got to take some losers. I personally have been very consistent the last several years. My win rate is right around 63%. And month to month, it varies very little. Like it might be 62% or 64%. Like it's very much when you do the same kind of trade day in and day out, it's no big surprise that that sort of repetitive nature and consistency is there. But you also have to realize that a 60, let's just say 63% win rate means you're losing 1 out of 3 trades. So you really have to be okay with taking that 1 out of 3 losses, but keep them at a minimum. That's the other thing. You know, you lose 1 tick, 2 ticks, you're out. Great. But when you get the winners, like today, whatever that was multiple ticks. You know, we shorted at 27, we got out at 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tick winners. So if your winners are, you know, 4, 5, 6 ticks each time, and you're doing those at a rate of, you know, 2 to 1 compared to your losses, it stacks up to a winning formula. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It just kind of breaks down to the math. Of course, there's all the managing your emotions and stuff like that. But that is for another video, another day, guys. I have talked long enough. I hope this was useful to some of you. I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Look for way more content coming out, like I said, the later half of March into April. I am psyched. I love doing these types of videos, and just been a little bit tougher with traveling and whatnot, but we'll definitely get back to them. And I'll see you in the next video.